Ladies and gentlemen, I am delighted today to be joined by Nina Clapperton. She is the founder of She Knows SEO, an SEO expert and a multi-six-figure blogger with a portfolio which has been largely unaffected by everything that Google's been throwing at us in the past few months. So I am delighted today to have Nina on. She is going to be talking to us about SEO best practices. She's also got some freebies to give away, so make sure you stick around to the end. Everybody, Nina Clapperton.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for joining us. First I want to say things suck right now. Google is being crazy and I totally understand. It's really disheartening when you put in so much work and then it kind of gets toppled. Now, I'm going to be the person everyone gets mad at where I say, SEO isn't dead. It's actually definitely still alive. It's just gotten much harder. I like to think of it as a video game where we've leveled up. And unfortunately, that means that a lot of us were making mistakes before that used to kind of like hack the video game, and now they don't work. Sorry, my dog's trying to get in. So now we're able to actually like fix these mistakes, and I do think this is the best way to have longevity with any business. So I'm going to take you through the 3 SEO mistakes that are killing your traffic and how to fix them. This is going to work for especially like new sites getting started, and I know many people are using the strategy of migrating things to a new domain. So this is really how to start off on the right foot and not be a spammy affiliate site that is talking about creatine and you've clearly never tried it. I haven't, so I don't understand what that is, but SEO Twitter gets mad about it a lot.
It's interesting to see where this is all going to go as well, I think, in the months to come.
Well, and if this update ever ends, it could be another 3 months that it goes on, it feels like.
I know, yeah. My God. Yeah.
So
I think it's probably going to be an opportunity for new sites I think it's going to be an opportunity for new sites as well, starting off, straight off the bat, with the classifier seeming to be added to a number of sites that may not be able to recover, but definitely if you start the right way, that's going to be the secret to success for longevity. Yeah. Okay,
I think that's
Nina.
really the key here is like making sure that you're starting off on the right foot. And the great thing is that in the blogging world, you can restart anytime you want. It's like an extra $10 for a new domain, and then you can get like rather than like a brick and mortar business where you need to like move, change your face probably so customers don't recognize you, like wear an elaborate disguise. Like we don't need to do that. We can just buy a new domain and start again, which is so much easier because I'm sure like face-off style plastic surgery is much more expensive than a new domain.
Definitely,
Yeah. So I always like to introduce myself for a quick minute. My name is Nina. I'm the founder of She Knows SEO. I am a travel addict who has lived in over 12 countries in the last, I think it's actually 18 countries now in the last 12 years, because I have commitment issues, so I can't pick one passport. I'm also a mom to puppy Theo. You'll see him throughout because his face is cuter than mine, and I find it is way better for people paying attention to slides to see his happy little face. Now, I made the, thank you. I made the mistakes everyone else makes where I spent 3 years on my site spending like 120 hours a week, and I earned a grand total of $83 in that entire period. And I don't even get that money. It's still like locked in a Google AdSense account. So technically I made negative money and I just had like the wish of money. In 2021, I finally decided like I need to get my butt in gear. I need to figure out this whole SEO thing. I need to stop dancing to weird things on TikTok, hoping it'll make me money, because it didn't, because I can't dance. And after that, I was able to get my blog into Mediavine in 6 months. About 6 weeks later, I hit my first $10,000 month in passive income. And in January 2023, I had my first $30,000 month. Now, people always ask me like for the proof and like where did it come from and stuff. So here is my my traffic from May 2022, where I grew by about 50,000 sessions, 14,000 sessions in 1 month, which was a 50,000 session growth from December 2021. And where did that money come from? It was mostly affiliates, which is so weird to me because like I thought I was just not an affiliate girl and it would never happen, but I did $24,700 in affiliates. Then I had 2 $7 products, and I had a couple email ads and a couple sponsored links, and that was $6,900. And then in Mediavine ads, which I always thought when you first get into an ad network, I was like, this is gonna make me rich. It doesn't. Now this was a January, so it was about $1,300. My Januaries are always, oh, Jesus, sorry.
Is that the dog again?
That again. This was a January. Januaries are always my lowest month. That's just Q1, it just happens. So I've been up to about $7,500 in my best month from Mediavine ads. Actually, at the time it was Raptive, but that's where the money comes from. Now, what are we gonna talk about today? Because you guys don't care about me, you care about you, and that's totally fair. We're gonna talk about the number one thing you need to know to properly optimize for SEO, how to niche down your site the right way, tips for adhering to Google's new EEAT guidelines. Even if you don't believe in them, I don't care if you do or not, but we're gonna talk about why you should actually adhere to them regardless of algorithms, why you're picking the wrong keywords, and how to choose the right keywords, and then how to do internal linking for your site the right way so that you can get traffic on autopilot. And if you stay till the end, you're gonna get my ChatGPT style guide, which is how I get my AI to actually sound like me and not some like weird peppy robot that keeps saying like, let's dive in and remarkable mountains and stuff that like no one's gonna say. So if you don't know what SEO is, you might not. Here's a very, very quick rundown. SEO is search engine optimization. It is the language of different companies like Google, Bing, DuckDuckGo, any of them. And essentially, it is us just translating ourselves for Google. So when you travel, you're gonna change like slang no matter where you are. I lived in New Zealand for a year. They say things very differently. I am a native English speaker and I still was like, what are you saying to me? What is a singlet? What are jandals? I have no idea what's happening. But that's the same with Google. Google can speak English, but they need to understand what we're talking about, and they do that through keywords. So a keyword is going to be any term. It's not just a single word that someone types into the search bar of Google. I will also say they are usually grammatically incorrect because none of us use grammar if we don't have to. Grammar is boring and grammar takes time. So they are often things like Rome things to do, Rome best restaurant. That's okay. It doesn't need to be grammatically correct. But I think SEO is the best way to grow an audience, especially because it is organic, and these same principles are what I use to grow my YouTube channel and to grow my Facebook groups, because really search engine optimization is just audience optimization. So that gets me to my next point. SEO is really about your audience, and that is, if you can take one thing away from this session, that is what you're doing wrong. If you are putting yourself first, if you are putting your Amazon income first, that's the issue. You need to have a clear audience that you're talking to. Every business is going to have the most success speaking to one specific person. You want to create a really in-depth audience avatar who is the person you're talking to. If you're running an affiliate website that sells dog beds to people or something, or like you're trying to market those things, it's very different if you're talking to someone like me with a giant golden retriever, or if you're talking to someone like my sister who has a dog that weighs like 5 pounds and is this big and like, I don't know, I don't think it's a dog. I'm pretty sure it's a robot or like a cat or something. So like
a yappy dog.
Yeah, exactly. The dog bed it needs is very different than the dog bed my dog needs. Same for a leash. Theo, in this picture, you can see he's wearing a halty around his nose because he tugs out of my arms the second he sees water. Her dog, literally one time I tied a piece of string to it because I couldn't find the leash, and we went for a long walk that way and had no issue. So this is why you need to define your audience first. Who are we talking to? What are their challenges? What are their pain points? Why are you making the site? And really the goal of that question should be, how are you helping them? So a typical kind of response would be, I help X people do Y thing. I help golden retriever owners find the best products for their dog so they're not having to like order 400 extra toys on Amazon when he eats them. That's going to be your goal here, so you know who you're talking to. And I really honestly think that is the thing that has helped me the most with my businesses and helped me with like every facet of it. People always are like, why do people like you so much? And like not in a rude way, like they're genuinely trying to understand to replicate it. And I'm like, because I know exactly who I'm talking to. I am authentically myself, but I'm also authentically myself in a way that helps them the most. So yeah, I throw pictures of my dog up, but I'm also doing that to keep people's attention if, like me, they have ADHD and they can't focus on a screen. So there's always like a method to the madness you guys need to keep in mind. So now let's get on to the actual mistakes. Mistake number 1 is not niching down. And this really comes back to your audience. Who are we talking to? Like, who is this person? What do they need help with? Google trusts people who are an expert on one thing, and that's kind of the same as an individual. So I often help travel bloggers, but the same goes for affiliates. The same goes for, like, I've had a recipe site, I've had a pet site, I helped like my old roommate start a construction site. And really the issue is, like, you cannot be a jack of all trades because people are coming to you for answers on a single topic. For my old roommate, he builds, like, they're called ground level decks, and they're like built off of pallets. Well, with that, that's a very different thing than someone who wants like a 2-story patio and wants to like have it varnished and have all these extra fancy things. So there's a very clear audience divide you need to have there. And you need to reflect that in your content. With travel, I always say someone should be able to come to your site and completely plan their trip. They should be able to go like from the idea of what is Rome? Where is Rome? All the way down to actually booking the hotel in Rome, because that shows that you know what you're talking about and it builds trust. I always use the example as well, and this is like a weird example, but my dog used to go to dog parks when he was a puppy. If someone just like randomly walked up to me and said, your dog should buy these dog boots, they're great, they're super safe, I'd be like, whoa, go away, who are you? Get out of here. But if I've been at that dog park for a month, I've been chatting with this person, we've been talking about our dogs, and then I was like, hey, I like the boots your dog wears, or hey, do you have any tips for dogs in the summer? I'm new with this puppy. I trust that person. That's the same thing we're doing here. We're knowing our audience, we're giving them answers to the problems that they have, we're building that trust, and then we can sell to them. So that's where niching down comes from. It's much less, I think, about tricking people or tricking Google into being like, oh, Nina knows things about hiking. Okay, I do because I do it, but I'm not tricking you into knowing that. I'm giving you the advice, I'm giving you the information, and that's really gonna be the difference here. So how do we do that? Now, we don't want to be like Theo in this picture. I threw a ball for Theo in this picture and he came back with 2 sticks. Don't know where the ball went, don't know where the sticks came from. We want to be very clear that when we're throwing that ball, they are going to know what they're getting when they come back. I didn't want these sticks. I wanted the $10 ball that now I buy biodegradable balls because this has become a repeated problem with him. So for an existing site, if you're like me and you did years of like nonsense on your blog, you're going to need to change the existing structure unless you want to start a new one. We'll get to that next. So you want to look at your top 10 posts in G4. I know G4 is not the best, but it is in there, I promise you. And if it's not, go to Microsoft Clarity because it's free and it'll also tell you, and it's a little bit easier. So look at your top 10 posts that are getting traffic and see what's similar about them. For me, with my very first blog, I would write about, like, I thought I was writing about solo travel, but I had like 2 posts on it out of 180. So I looked at what was doing well and I was like, they're not about the same place, but they are all about living abroad. And I was like, of course they're about living abroad. That's what everyone asks me about. So I leaned into that. I steered into the skid, and that was really what helped me. People already wanted to know more about that, so I could just write more about that. Now for your site, take a look. Is it all dog beds? Is it all, I'm gonna keep using dog beds because I literally just had to go and buy one the other day for my dog. But is it all like coffee makers? Is it all toasters? Or is it all things for a kitchen? Is it all things for single moms? Is it all things for hikers? Like, look at what is similar, and you're gonna be the best judge of that. Now, if you have no traffic, this isn't really going to help. You're going to be able to start the same way as like a new blogger. But we want to see, what are we already being liked for? How can we do more of it? Because if Google and if your users already trust you for one thing and you can do more of it, they're going to trust you a lot more. I want you to pick 1 to 2 topics and then write on it to death. I am still writing about living in Canada on my primary travel blog. I thought I'd be done that. I didn't even think I'd still be living here. I had no idea I'd still be in this country at this point. And there's just a wealth of information. You are not boring your audience. You might bore yourself a little bit, but honestly, the boring stuff tends to make you the most money. So don't worry about that too much. Worry about helping people and answering all their questions so they can, quote unquote, plan a full trip on your website. Now for a new site, the way that I do this is I want to like verify the niche first. Now there's a common misconception that you need to be like the first person to ever talk about this thing. No, because honestly, if you were starting a site that is like, budget, expensive travel in Rome, but also the Maldives, but it's only for people with size 10 feet. There's a reason no one writes about that, and it's because that's not a thing people are worried about. That is not something that matters to them. Unless this is like a brand new thing. Think about when ChatGPT launched and like within a month there were like 10 new AI detectors. Okay, well they're new because this is a new problem. For most of us with an affiliate site especially, we're looking at existing products, and if no one else is selling that product, there might be a reason why. We really want to make sure that we are verifying that there is room for us as well, so that it's not all like, I know Forbes is up there a lot, I get it, but there are other sites there as well. And we don't want to have like 10 Forbes equivalents in the top 10. Otherwise, there's probably no room for us. We want to make sure that there's room for us too. So I typically find at least 80 keywords in the niche to figure out that I could write on those things and rank for it. I basically look for 80 keywords where there's at least a few DAs under 30 or 40 that I could go for. And I want to make sure I have experience with them, especially to start. Now, this is kind of where EEAT comes in a little bit to begin with. Have some original photos, have some personal experience. My sister, I'm staying with her right now because I just moved house, and I broke her coffee maker like the morning I got here because I was like, there's so many buttons that I don't know what to do. But now I can write on that a lot better and explain that this coffee maker, first of all, is the most insane piece of machinery I've ever seen. But also, like, I can add that personal experience of you won't notice the button as easily as they show it in the photo, but it's right here. So we really want to add that in, especially to our beginning. And then I always recommend try it first. I actually hated writing about SEO when I started. I started the blog, I was like, I'm in it, I'm gonna write about this. And then I realized I hate the traditional SEO writing style where people are like doing these 50,000 word case studies and it feels very academic. I don't like that. I like talking about SEO like this. Chill, having a chat, helping out, plain English, weird analogies. That's my thing. So I was able to pivot to that. But some niches, like if you're talking about like a legal blog, you could not talk the way that I'm talking right now in a legal blog. And I say that having written for many. So we want to test it first. Test if you like writing about dog beds, if you like writing about coffee makers. Worst case, if you end up hating it, give those posts away as a guest post and get a link. If you're listening to this, if you're a fan of Linkifi, you know that links matter. So you'll be able to still get something out of it. And you want to make sure that you can add to what already exists. Now, there's always something you could add, realistically. I mean, how many people own a cute golden retriever? There's so many, but I am able to bring my unique perspective from my weird little dog and all of his oddities. I am able to talk about like service dog travel because he is my service dog. And from service dog travel, I'm able to talk about it from a Canadian lens and from a lens of having a bigger dog. Like these are all extra unique experiences I have that I can bring to the table. You have them. I promise you that, like, unless you just came out of the packaging fresh from the Barbie Emporium, you have a personality and you have experiences that are unique to you that you can add to this. And if you just came out of a package from the Barbie Emporium, you're also unique because no one else has done that. And then you should definitely pitch the Barbie movie for the next extra. So can you not niche down though? I love people who are multi-passionate. I am one of those people. It's why I have a portfolio of niche sites. It's why I do a million different things. But it's going to be so much harder. If you come to someone's website to learn about dogs and suddenly they're talking about cats, you're like, whoa, what's happening here? If you came to She Knows SEO and I'm suddenly teaching you like how to put Crocs on your dog, you'd be like, Nina, what is happening? Like, where have I gotten to? I think you posted this on the wrong website. And I probably would have. That is very much something on brand for me that I would have done. So instead, we really want to make sure we are being specific to a specific experience for our specific audience, because an audience expects things from us. And with EEAT, it is important that we are very clear on what our expertise is and how we can help. So EEAT stands for experience, expertise, authority, and trustworthiness. So how we break that up, essentially, the experience would be, I've solo traveled in Rome. I have used a coffee machine before. I have like walked this dog before. Expertise is going to be more of like the overarching expertise. Often it is like, okay, I have a degree in something, but for many of these things, we don't need a degree. You do not need to have like a dog safety degree to talk about like a dog crate for a car. You just don't. So instead, it's going to be, I've solo traveled 5 times. I have like broken 20 coffee makers. I have had to buy 10 different leashes for my dog. I've had 10 dogs. Those are all expertise. Experience, I think of a bit more like it is this specific article, where expertise is more the niche itself. And then authority is going to be someone else is kind of backing up my authority a little bit, or it's like the history of my experience. So I've won an award. I have 10 links from Linkifi. Thank God. I have a bunch of them too, and it does help a lot. I've solo traveled for this many weeks. Again, I've had 10 dogs. Like I've had this dog and kept him alive somehow for 3 years, even though sometimes we want to kill each other. Like those are all bits of authority. And then trustworthiness are going to be things like giving accurate information, backing the sources up. I showed a bunch of things for trust at the beginning. I broke down my income. I showed you guys a screenshot of my traffic. I do this all the time because there are so many people out there that just go, I have $100 million. And it's like, do you? Like, do you actually? Or even for things like with a dog, it's like, okay, this leash is definitely strong enough. Okay, but do you have a big dog? Because if my sister said that with her dog, I'd laugh at her. So we want to make sure we are very clear on that trustworthy aspect. Now, intros are a part of that. I'm not going to read the intro on the screen, but you can if you would like to. But this is just an example of an EEAT intro, which is one of the spaces we're going to be clear on who we are and why someone should trust us. I am kind of the boring police here. Everyone hates intros. I love intros, and I get really mad when I go to a site and it just says like, these are the best dog crates, and that's it. And I'm like, come on, who are you? Why should I listen to you? Like, what is your experience that means I should trust you? And what's the answer? I use something called the Costco free sample policy, which I have just decided is the name of it. I don't think that's actually the name of it. But essentially, like, if you're gonna get a box of 800 egg rolls, you want to try the egg roll first. That's a big commitment. That's like, I want to know that I can trust this thing and that it works for me. So the same thing happens with an article like this, is I want to know, okay, what is the coffee machine that is best? Because there needs to be a definitive answer. If you have 10 coffee machines, they are not all the same. Or if they are, tell me that, and then I'll just buy whichever's cheapest, realistically. But I want to know what is the unique thing about it. So I would say, okay, well, if you want something quick and easy, but like it's pretty much a Starbucks dupe, you're gonna get like the Keurig K whatever nonsense. But if you want something that actually tastes like Starbucks, you're gonna need to get this fancier one that is more expensive, but like considering how many Starbucks you're probably buying a week, you'll pay it off in a month sort of thing. That's definitive and helpful. So always, 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 always answer the question, and don't be afraid that like, I don't know, there's this weird misconception that people aren't going to keep reading if you've like teased the answer. No, the people who weren't going to read were already going to look at your table of contents. We're already just going to scroll your headers because they want to be sure it's worth their time. This is just helping them get to it faster, and then those people are still going to be like, you know what? That was really helpful. Thank you. I appreciate it. And they're more likely to come back. So just don't be too afraid. Oops, clicked too fast. We just want to make sure that these EEAT signals are on our site so that we are helping people immediately trust us. So some things that you're going to need to have on your site: an about page, a contact page, an author page. If you're a multi-author site especially, you need this. You need to know, okay, Nina is the person to go to about coffee machines, but Theo's my dog, just to be clear. I know he has a human name, so people get confused. Theo's the person to go to about sticks, apparently. So you want to know the difference between us, and you also want to know which articles I wrote versus him, because we'd have a very different perspective, and because he can't write. Thank God, because honestly, he's too smart already. Then we need to have some external links to authority sources. Think about it. You want to back up your claims. Just like we get backlinks to our site, and that gives us authority, we're kind of paying it forward, but we're not thinking of it that way. We're thinking of it as, okay, if Nina said the population of Toronto is 10 billion, someone needs to fact check her on that. And I'm going to fact check myself. And you can actually just ask ChatGPT to do that and give it your like whole post and say, okay, give me like fact check this and provide sources. And it'll give you links that then you can try to include. Don't link to your competitors though. That hopefully goes without saying. Then we need need to have a strong introduction that immediately says, we are the person to listen to. I want to immediately know, okay, I can trust this person to teach me. If you didn't like my intro at the beginning, you're probably not still here. You're probably like, okay, I don't trust her. She doesn't know her stuff. I'm gone. So I'm not talking to you now. I'm talking to those of you who this worked for. Same idea in your blog post. And then number 6, we want a featured in section where we can show off our beautiful Linkifi links, but also any other places that we've been featured. Any podcasts that we've been on, any weird interviews you've done at some point on the side of the street or something, whatever you've done, anywhere you've been featured, you want to include that here. You're not linking to them, you're just showing okay, look, I've been in the BBC, I've been in Forbes, I've been in all these other places. You can trust me because they trusted me. So now mistake number 2, picking the wrong keywords. And I will say, I'll tease this a little bit. My theory for why the 2 updates have hit people so hard is that they've actually picked up on some of our strategies for finding really low volume keywords that didn't connect to each other. And that's a huge thing I see on a lot of sites. And the 1 or 2 of my sites that did get hit, that was the thing that I did, is I just assigned a bunch of kind of irrelevant to each other keywords to my writers that were just quote unquote easy. Easy keywords are great, except when they're not, and I'm gonna talk about that. So how do we spot the wrong keyword? Number 1, it's too competitive. Literally Forbes and its competitors ranks all in the top 10, and your baby DA1 site can't compete with that. No one trusts you yet, and that's normal, but that means that keyword is not for you right now. It's not in your niche. I've done this so often where I'm okay, it's easy, so I'm just gonna go for it. No, Nina, why are you talking about heart surgery? You've never had it, you don't know how to talk about this. It is not easy for you, and that's important. It's a keyword that just gets no traffic. Go back to that niche example I gave about the Maldives for size 10 feet. No one is searching that. Just no one cares about that. It's kind of an irrelevant, mishmash of multiple different keywords and personality types into it, but it's also just not a pain point for anybody. This is different than a 0 volume keyword. I'll talk about those, but it's just a keyword that doesn't matter to people.
You're upsetting our one listener that's a size 10 footed person who wants to go to the Maldives.
I will say I'm a size 10 and I do want to go to the Maldives, but equally that's not how I'm searching for it. I think that's the key thing as well, is thinking about okay, even for yourself, I am disabled, so I often search for travel from a disabled lens, but I don't search okay, hotels that only have 2 steps to the front door. I just search hotels and then I do that work myself. Now, I'm not saying it's not great to have that, but equally, that's not what I ever type in because I don't expect to. So I think that's where the misconception happens as well, is my size 10 brethren, I see you. I've got big feet too. Or for men, I guess that might be small. But equally, I don't know that size 10 feet change your experience in the Maldives either. So we need to think of that, because if it's not going to impact the experience, if I say, okay, best places for high tea if you have a dog that sheds, but he's not coming with you, it's why does that matter? Why do we care for people with shedding dogs if it's not a dog-friendly place? So just keep that in mind too. And that's where wrong search intent also kind of comes in, is you have to figure out what is someone looking for here? If someone is searching for best time to visit the Maldives, do they want a weather report? Or are they looking for just the cheapest time? Are they looking for the best time to get married? Well, they didn't ask about getting married, so they're probably not searching for that. Same for a coffee maker. If you're okay, best coffee maker under $50, and all of your options are over $50, they've told you what they want and you've just not listened. And I can tell you from experience, people end relationships over that, so don't do that with your audience. Now, they can also be things written at the wrong time. There is seasonality even with affiliates, which I think is really interesting that people don't realize, is people search for certain things at a certain time of year. So for Christmas, of course, things peak for different things for that. But even for pool floaties, I've actually bought my dog a pool floaty of his own, and I had to figure out okay, if I'm gonna write a review of this, what time of year am I gonna do that? Now, typically we write 6 months ahead of the peak time, and that's because we need time to rank and people need time to think about making that purchase. People typically aren't in August going, oh crap, the summer's almost over and I forgot to buy my dog a pool floaty. Those were usually the people who their dog has now popped it, so now they need a new one. But we don't want to like waste our time writing, or even like writing this in September when, at least in Canada, most pools are closed. We want to make sure we're writing at the best time so that we are optimizing our effort. Then there's also the wrong medium. Now, this happens a lot as well. People try to write a blog post, but clearly the intent is a video. And this especially happens with tutorials. With a tutorial, people often want a video. And if I can give you some quick advice, if you are not super camera shy, like you're okay with at least your hands being on camera, record a video demo of what you're talking about and put it inside the blog post. Put it on YouTube as well. It is so good for you. It's going to like help with your authority, but also it helps users. As someone who nearly destroyed my sister's fancy coffee maker and probably would have needed to pay far too much money for it, like I searched high and low for someone to show me how to make a latte on this thing. And every video I saw was like, coffee machine, cutaway. There's just a latte in front of it. And I was like, what? How do you use this? So we want to like actually help our users with this. So look at what's already in the top 10 and don't make something brand new. Like stick with what is there. And then the last thing is, it's something that you chose for you and not for your audience. So this is something I'm very guilty of at the beginning, especially, where I would write a blog post because I felt like it. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but I am saying if the intent is just, I feel like it, and there's no way to make it about the audience, that's not helpful. I wrote a blog post called What I'm Most Excited to Do in Singapore. And at the time, my mom and my grandmother were my only two readers, and my mom was in the bed next to me because we went to Singapore together. So 50% of my readers didn't even read the blog post because she didn't care and because we were there together. So that's really important. It's like, you are not a Kardashian. You are not Elon Musk, where people are like, even hate reading what you're doing. People don't care about you. And I said that at the beginning too. I was like, y'all don't care about me. And I'm okay with that. You care about you the most, and that is fine. We need to make sure we're kind of treating our audience the same way, of helping them with what they need help with, not what we think that like we just feel like writing about. So how do we find the right keywords? Number one, niche research. Again, know your niche, know your audience, and figure out what they need help with. The best places to do this are in forums, in Facebook groups, like even on TikTok, see what people are making TikToks about, and then answer those questions. Now with affiliates, what I see people do all the time is they start at the end of the funnel. So they start right around the action step of making that purchase. But actually, you need to get to know your people first. So you want to have like the actual questions around that of like, is it safe to drink 4 cups of coffee from your weird homemade pod system every day? Probably not. Is it like, I don't know, do dogs need to wear shoes? What like type of material is best for a dog? I'm not selling anyone really anything in those posts, but they're really important and they are questions people have. So I want to make sure I know those questions, and especially for us, we're experts at this point, so we've kind of forgotten those beginner questions. Like I often don't think of questions that I want to write blog posts about because I'm thinking about like super high level like SEO and AI and coding and things. And then someone comes to me and goes, how do I know index something? Or what does like a root or seed keyword mean? And I'm like, oh, right, people don't know that. So you really want to connect with like the stage of kind of experience level your audience has somewhere, so you can get those questions sent to you on autopilot. Put them into a spreadsheet, and then you're going to kind of verify them a little bit later. Number 2 is also personal experience. We're going to verify these as well, but we're really just brainstorming like, what do I have experience in? At this point, breaking a bunch of fancy coffee makers. So like I'm going to talk about coffee makers because from the level of someone like me who has maybe only ever like pressed one button before and never had to like tamp down espresso beans or something. Okay, well, this is a new experience. So here's how to like be a very budget person and learning how to do this for the first time. So we want to have that experience put in. And then we're going to go on to key search. Key search is my favorite tool. Ahrefs, SEMrush, Ubersuggest all operate very similarly, but you're just going to put in a root keyword. Other people call this a seed keyword, but I come from like more of an English history, like English language and literature, and so we would call it like a root word in etymology, so that's why I like it. But for example, if you're talking about like travel, you put in Rome. If you're talking about dog beds, you're going to put in dog beds. If you're talking about golden retrievers, you're going to type in golden retriever. And then you're gonna see all the related keywords that come up. And again, we're gonna look for things that are relevant to our niche, relevant to our audience, and relevant to our experience. Now, if you don't have experience with it, you can get experience with most of these things. That is not me giving you permission to go and buy a golden retriever for niche verification, because I know someone's gonna be like, Nina just said I can get a cute puppy. Fair, you know what? Probably yes. Let me get you in a fight with your partner. That's okay. But you can go out and like buy more coffee machines. You can go out and buy the 10 vacuums or whatever. That's okay. Then we're gonna look for keywords that are easy. So I typically look for green or blue. Those are the colors that both Ahrefs and KeySearch use. But you always wanna double check the top 10, because like I mentioned before, it might be easy, but it might not be easy for you in your niche or with your experience. And then you're also going to use KeySearch's competitor analysis tool to mine competitors for keywords that they're already ranking for. Especially post HCU and post March updates, you want to see what blogs or affiliate sites like yours are currently ranking for, because Google did change the intent of a lot of keywords, and that means that just finding something that looks easy may not actually mean that you meet the intent. Maybe you're not a video, maybe you're not an e-commerce site for that specific thing. So instead we want to see, okay, where are my competitors still having success so that I can have success there too? And you'll start to notice like types of keywords that work. Now, step 4 and 5 that I just mentioned, that's how you're going to verify those keywords from step 1 and 2 for the niche research and the personal experience. I would also say you're not always using a keyword. Like sometimes there just isn't something, but it's still something your audience really needs to know about. So for example, I recently wrote a blog post about if you can internal link between categories on your site. There wasn't really a keyword for that. People didn't really search it, but it kept getting asked in my free Facebook group. And I was like, okay, well, this comes up once a month at this point, and I have tired little hands, so I don't feel like typing out an answer every time. I'm gonna write a blog post to help them with it, and then lo and behold, it started ranking and getting some traffic as well. So always, always, always think about your audience first, and then we're gonna come and look at these keywords. Then we need to organize this, because you're probably gonna end up, if you're like me, with a list of like 1,000 keywords, and you're like, oh my God, I'm just one lady, how do I write all of these? So we wanna figure out, okay, is it the right time of year to write this? Is this helpful for my audience? And is this kind of based in the right cluster at this moment? So I give the example here of writing for a Christmas market keyword. This could literally be anything though, but I find Christmas is a really good example because everyone knows when it is, and because unlike Easter, it doesn't move, and I don't even know when Easter is. I have no idea. So I'm not gonna write about like the best time to visit Christmas markets one day before Christmas. I'm not gonna write about the 10 best Christmas gifts for your husband the day before Christmas. Yes, that's when my dad goes shopping for all of our presents, but even then, you're not gonna rank in time for that. So we wanna make sure that we are writing about 6 months ahead. So I typically, in KeySearch, there's a little graph that they show. I will look for whenever the peak is in that, and Ahrefs, SEMrush, Ubersuggest, all of the same. I'm gonna see when the peak is and then count backwards by 6, because I cannot like do that just like looking at it. I have to like be the 5-year-old going 1, 2. So you're gonna go backwards, and then that's when you're gonna write the thing. Now there are evergreen keywords as well, and that's okay. So it's totally fine to like go backwards, but or like just kind of do them whenever. But we're gonna go backwards from when there is a high point. Then you're also gonna want to like wait a minute before you add in affiliates. This is something I see a lot with people who just wanna like dive right in and be like, okay, but I know dog leashes, I know coffee makers, I know golf shoes. I wanna talk about them from day one. That's great, but talk about them from an informational standpoint first. Get your first 1,000 page views organically and then build in the affiliates. I gave the example earlier about some like random person coming up to you at a dog park. If that person comes in hot just selling at you, you're like, go away, I do not want to give you money, I'm at a dog park, I probably don't even have my wallet on me. But if that is that person that you've fostered a relationship with, then you trust them. The same thing here, where they need to trust you first, and Google needs to trust that you're helping people before you can start selling to them. That's why a lot of e-commerce sites still have a section that is blog information, and that's what we're doing here. Then I mentioned clusters, and that's kind of related to the affiliate part of it. Now, the way that like I plan out my kind of content pillars, silos, whatever you want to call them, is I break it down by cluster. So, okay, I have a site on dogs. I'm going to use that because I don't know enough about coffee or golf shoes to talk about it. But let's say I have a golden retriever blog. Okay, so one of my content things is going to be training a golden retriever. So inside of training a golden retriever, one of the things you need to train them for is not to pull you like a sled dog when you're walking with them. Now, I could start with like doing a review of Theo's Halti, or I could start with some training techniques I used to begin with. I could start with like the best ways to start getting your dog to heel and focus on you. I can start with like how to start doing that training in your house. Or I could jump right to being like, buy this Halti, and you're like, no, Nina, I don't want that yet. You typically also want to like try to work with what you have first before you're going to purchase something. So I'm going to plan out at least 10 posts that basically move through the AIDA funnel. So that's attention, information, desire, action. So attention is what is like heel walking with your dog? What is walking a dog essentially? Most people kind of have that idea already. And so it's going to be a bit more specific, like how do you get your dog to do this? Then the information is just information. So that's more details, more techniques and strategies, kind of getting into the nitty-gritty a bit more. Then desire, that's typically where we come in with our affiliate posts, because action is the purchase. And if we're not an e-commerce store, they can't purchase from you directly on your site. We can send them to where they can do that. So we want to do this with our affiliate posts. But you kind of need to move them through that funnel because number one, Google trusts e-commerce sites for the action step and now sometimes for the desire step. So we need to get them at the information and at the attention stage. So again, that's why it's really helpful to have non-affiliate posts. And when I'm planning out those 10 posts, I kind of make sure I have things for those first 3 stages of that funnel when I'm looking at keywords. So I'm not just jumping right in with 10 posts about like the best Halti, a single Halti review, the best like harnesses versus leashes, and then just like selling them stuff. I'm gonna really prioritize information, and then any products I offer are a solution to all those pain points that we've already been talking about. Now, mistake number 3 is missing out on free traffic. And you're probably like, Nina, we've already been talking about free traffic. Yes, we have. But what most people miss is they bring someone onto their site, they kind of like welcome them into their home, and then they just shove them back out a side door. And this is what's called a doorway page. And this is kind of one of the theories floating around right now with the updates of like maybe why Google's mad at affiliates. I don't know, I have many affiliate posts that still rank, so I don't know if I fully believe that, but I do understand that Google is like, okay, if you're inviting someone over to your house for a coffee and then you shove them out the window the second they get in your foyer, like, that's not great. No one's gonna come to your house for coffee anymore. You're gonna be the weird lady with people falling out your window. Like, and Google's not really sure as well if they're being pushed out or if they're jumping out to get away from you. So we don't want either of those things. Instead, we want to keep people on our site. And if you already have someone on your website, you have a captive audience. Not captive in the sense of you've tied them to a chair. That's important. Like, they should be allowed to leave if they want to. But if they like and trust your content, they want to keep learning more. And I don't want someone to come to my site, and this is the term I love using, and I know it's a bit crass, I don't want them to get SEO blue balls. I don't want someone coming to my site and learning about like, okay, how do I get my golden retriever to stop pulling like a sled dog? And then I tell them like, okay, you're gonna teach them the heel command, you're gonna like practice around your living room, and you're gonna buy them a Halti. Okay, but I could also have like a detailed guide on how to do the heel command and how to train that. I could have a guide on like how to do the like training in your house, especially if you have an apartment, and I could do a review of the Halti. So now I can take that one person from being like a 1-page view on my site to being a 4-page view experience, and maybe even more. And the way that we do that is through internal linking. People love to hate on internal linking and be like, oh, it's too hard to connect my content. That means you have no content related to each other, and that's a problem. We really want to make sure, going back even like 2 steps, basically 3 steps, I guess, to the audience and the niche. Who are we talking to? What pain point are we solving? And then how can we connect that with those keywords so that they are related? I've given tons of examples here, but essentially we just want to figure out that we are not just telling them, okay, go to Rome, and then we never give them any other information about Rome, because what's going to happen is they leave and go to someone else's website. And we don't want to do that. We're not fluffing someone for somebody else. We are making sure that they are happy on our website, okay? So the way we do that is with internal linking. So even though you may have a keyword that gets like 10 page views a month if you look at key search, you're like, "Ugh, do I really want to write about that?" But you know the commission would be really high if someone purchased it. Like, think about a cruise. Like, cruises are so expensive. You can get thousands of dollars if someone buys a cruise from you. But we need to get people to trust us to be willing to spend like 10 grand on a 2-week cruise. How do we do that? We give them informational posts, and then we're going to link through that AIDA funnel I mentioned to get them to the affiliate post. And we're going to link vice versa between like things lower on the funnel and more information, because maybe the reason that they aren't ready to purchase is that they don't have that extra information first. I definitely started looking at Alaska cruises and then went, wait, what's the time I should go to Alaska? Maybe I should check that before I purchase this. And it's like a terrible time to be there. Because logically we're like, no, someone's going to start at the top. There are people like me who are just chaos. So you're going to need to move around with them a little bit. So what we're going to do is internal link between them. And that's really going to get you a bunch of extra like kind of free traffic, which is amazing. So I want to talk about the wrong ways to do it first. A lot of people do not understand internal linking, and I am one of them. Every bad example I give in this presentation, that was me. I 100% did everything, and I feel I can shame people because I'm shaming my past self because I did this too. So the first thing is linking from a random word to any content on that location or on that thing. So for the example, this is something I did on my old site, is I would go from the word New Zealand and I'd link to anything about New Zealand. It might make no sense. We might be going from a post about like summer in New Zealand to a post about skiing in New Zealand. How does that make any sense to somebody? It doesn't. And same thing for like restaurants to any post about food. Same thing would go for like a dog site. If I'm linking from the words golden retriever to something about chihuahuas, you'd be like, what? Like, what are we doing here? I like to say that it's essentially we want to send someone on a road trip with a map and like an idea of where they're going and an itinerary. If you're linking this way, you're kind of just shoving someone into the back of a van with a blindfold on and the van just takes off, and then they might end up somewhere good, they might end up somewhere terrible. We don't want the somewhere terrible, so let's give them the expectation of where they're going. People also get lazy and only rely on a related post section at the bottom of their posts. That's not good. Number one, it's usually the exact title of a post. Number two, most people don't make it to the end of a blog post. They get what they need and they leave. And they don't know that they're missing out on something. And number three, if it's one of those automated ones, they usually pick really weird stuff. Even if you set it to the same category, they're gonna pick something strange. We want a curated experience on our site, so you really wanna pick them yourself. Then many people will add 2 internal links and be like, I internal linked, I'm done. No, you're not done. That's the equivalent of like putting on mascara and trying to go to the Oscars, and it's like, your face is not beat yet. Go sit down again and we gotta finish this. And I'm not a makeup girly, so like I'm not saying that to shame people. It's just not the standard for where you are. Same thing here, we need to give at least 10. Only using like a read more section, which is where people use like read more : and then they put the URL just like randomly throughout the piece, usually with like a weird background color. Almost always unreadable. Like almost always it's like the same color as the link text, and that's really hard. That's not helpful. It's also usually random. Be really intentional. Then people will also use the same anchor text every time. So if every single time I told you like, Subway's great, eat fresh, you'd be like, Nina, what like weird guerrilla marketing are you a part of? Or who has brainwashed you into loving Subway and only saying the slogan every single time? We want to vary it because naturally human language varies. I mean, anytime I use analogies and things, I'll kind of give a similar analogy, but my language changes each time because I'm human and I'm not reading a script, I'm just talking. That is how it works. So vary that anchor text and usually use different keyword kind of variations for it. And then lastly, I don't know why people don't think to do this, but like link back to that category page or hub page or pillar page or silo page, whatever you want to call it. But that page that's like in your menu that says golden retriever, link back to that. Because sometimes people want something different than what you think. And sometimes as well, people like, they just want more information. They're like, hey, I love this writing style, let's learn more. And they just want to get a bit of everything. This also is a great way to like move backlink juice through your website because you're kind of connecting everything more so for Google. And this is a way for them to understand that this is all tied together with a pretty little bow. Think of it like almost like an ancestry chart, like where you're like watching how things move through. Well, if everything only flows down, unlike an ancestry chart, incest is okay in terms of your internal linking. So we want things to go back and forth a bit. Ancestry, I'm pretty sure that's a bad idea, so don't do that. I'm pretty sure it's illegal too. But we do want that kind of mishmash of things moving through so that everything is interconnected. So the right way to internal link. Number one, the user knows where they're going. They're in that car, seated, in control, driving. They're not in the back of your van screaming for the police. That's important. Then we want anchor text that's natural and in context. So that means it's in the text normally. So literally in that sentence, if I linked from the words anchor text to a blog post explaining that, that would be natural. And you would expect that if you clicked on that, you'd be going to a post about anchor text. Now, if you went to a post about boats and like anchoring a boat, you'd be like, what? Because even though the wording is kind of okay, the intent is not there. We also want to make sure posts have at least 10 internal links pointing away from them and pointing to them from old posts. This is a really good way to get newer posts indexed really quickly. Then you can have those related posts and read more things, but don't count them for your 10 internal links. They are bonus, they are extra. They're kind of like just like a cherry on top of like, hey, you may have missed it before, so here's just a quick summary of some extra links you could go to learn more. Then we want to vary that anchor text, so look at secondary keywords, look at different variations of like golden retriever leashes, how to like have your golden retriever not tug you off your feet, things like that. Or even just golden retrievers are strong. Still same idea. They're strong so they pull you off your feet. And then we really want to make sure that 30 to 50% of our posts link back to that pillar page. So I typically will kind of, when I'm planning out my content, note which ones are going to link back to my pillar page. And typically they are the more informational posts. But with affiliate posts, that is a really good way to be like, okay, if you have an objection here, and maybe I didn't answer it in this post and you need more information, but I'm not sure what information you need, here's where you can find all of it. So it's all gonna be there, tied up for you in a nice bow, interconnected, so you can find what you need. And then there's the hidden power of internal links. I think of internal links like 50% of a backlink. Now, that does not mean you shouldn't get backlinks. In fact, you need them because you don't have any authority to pass through your site yet if you don't have backlink authority. But once you have that, if you just have all the backlink juice that come to one page, okay, that page is really strong now. But what about all the other ones? And especially with the amazing links that you get from Linkifi, they typically go to your homepage. And your homepage is great, but you're not typically making money off of it. So we want to make sure we have internal links, especially on a homepage, to make sure that we are saying, okay, you're on this page, it's great, you've gotten the information, now here are some posts where you can get more. And just like a user will move through, so does that link juice authority. The way that I visualize it is like there was a challenge on TikTok a while back where people would like sit lined up in a row and the first person had a giant bucket of water and everyone behind them had like smaller and smaller empty buckets, and you would like dump it behind you, the next person would get some of the water, then they dump it, and then every single link, the like link juice essentially diminishes a little bit because it's moving through. But if you just have that first person dump water onto the second person, now they have water in a bucket and it has nowhere to go. You may as well move it through your site to pass that authority around. It interconnects everything, it makes that weird incestuous family tree that we want, and it's also going to make sure that your authority is increasing. So I actually spent a month internal linking. I like set a month aside. I used Link Whisper, so it took 2 days instead of a month. Thank God, because it would have been very boring otherwise. And within that month, my DA doubled. I had not done anything else because I did not know anything else to do at that point, but that is how I went from a DA of 14 to 28. There was not a Google update. It was literally just me cleaning up my site and making sure Google knew who the heck I was and that I could talk about this thing. So, how would you feel about your blog reaching all these brand new heights and getting so much traffic? You can either do this the hard way and have no work to show or no income to show for all your hard work. You can go and do those weird TikTok dances and then like go to Pinterest and try to be like, hey, buy this dog bed. And then you go to Instagram and then your mom is like, why are you on Instagram talking about coffee machines? You can also just feel sick to your stomach at your day job where you're like, oh, I don't want to be here. That was me as a law clerk. I hated it. I was very bad at it because I hated it. So I would just go on Facebook all the time. You can also spend over $12,000 on blog courses and still see no results because, yep, I did that and it hurt my soul. And that's money I could have spent on way more important things that actually move the needle, like backlinks. You can also spend all your time watching things like this, going to a million masterclasses and never having time to implement, which is key. You need time to implement. Or you can attend my 6 months to 50K sessions masterclass, which is a kind of time shifted masterclass. So you can attend at any time. It's there for you. You get lifetime updates as well. So every time there's a Google update, I update the content to make sure it is helpful to y'all. Now, this is my 6-month strategy that I use to grow my blog to 50,000 sessions. And really the reason we want to do that is add revenue, but also so we have people on our site. You cannot sell to an empty store. You cannot, there's no one there to buy. So we want to get that virtual foot traffic so that we can sell to them and make sure we are getting that kind of passive income coming through. So in this course, you'll get 6 strategies for each month. I work on a batch system. So every month is what one action step you're going to take to structure your website, whether it's new or whether it's existing. If you're a brand new site, there is a month 0 section where we actually set the site up and get all the things set up for WordPress for you. And then you're also going to get 2 pre-recorded blog audits. One is a printable site, and then the other one, I want to say it was a soccer website, but I have forgotten exactly what it was, but I know I reviewed something about kicking soccer balls on it. But you'll get those 2 pre-recorded blog audits where I go through and analyze in real time existing blogs, and these are evergreen bonuses for y'all, so available to you. And if you'd like to get $100 off, you can use code Linkifi. You can also scan the QR code on the screen or type in https://sheknowsSEO.co/Linkify, and that'll auto apply it for you. Now the sales page will still say the $297 price, but if you scroll down to the bottom, it'll show you the $197 price with the $100 off. So what's inside? Let's look. Here you can see the exact month-by-month strategies of what you're going to get. So we go through setting up your blog all the way down to my 0 volume keyword strategy, which are keywords that look like they get no traffic, but then they get actual traffic. I have those that bring in 5,000 page views a month, even today, post updates. So I teach y'all how to do that as well. Then you're also going to get implementation bonuses because I believe in action steps. I also really believe in accessibility. So you get a private podcast feed so you can listen on the go and not have to have Wi-Fi or sit at your computer. Or if you have ADHD like me, you just can't stay still and you might walk away from it in the middle, which I do all the time. You'll also get checklists and workbooks to help you immediately take action. There is the ability to speed it up, to put on captions and a transcript as well for every single video. Then we have a bunch of people blowing, kind of tooting my own horn for me, so I'll let y'all read that. I feel uncomfortable with praise, so I'm not going to read it because, again, I've got a lot of therapy issues on top of my commitment issues. But we've had great success, and we've had a few students get into Mediavine even after the March update, which is amazing. So today that is yours for $197, and not to forget, y'all, and your bonus, if you want to get the free ChatGPT style guide to thank you for sticking around this long, you can scan the QR code on screen or type in sheknowsSEO.co/style and you'll be able to grab that today. It's a style guide in a Google Doc, so what you do is you copy and paste it for yourself and then you just play around with the template, so it'll say your blog name here. Please put in your blog name. That's going to be hopefully clear enough. And that's a prompt you're going to give ChatGPT every single time you start, or that you can build into a custom GPT so it will actually write like you and not use those weird words you hate, not write for Chris and I, we both write in UK English, I'm assuming, because you're from the UK and I'm Canadian, so we like you guys better. But if you prefer US English, you can tell it that and it'll change it up for you. It'll also define your tone so it sounds like you and not ChatGPT going, oh my God, you should buy this today. And you're like, dude, it's a blender. Take a breath. So let's recap what we talked about today. Number 1, what do you need to truly grow your organic traffic? You don't want to use fluff. You do not want to waste your time talking about things that are not helpful to your audience. Then we have the order to do each step in properly to really see results. So audience first, always. Every single thing you do, ask yourself, who am I talking to and how am I helping? And then go through the next steps of what's the niche, what are those keywords, how do they connect to each other, and then make that connection. That is going to be important. Make sure your audience knows who you are and that they can trust you every step of the way. And then if your site is still completely brand new, I want to just address this quickly. Could you see the results I did in 6 months? Yes, but it's much more likely now, because in the last 2 years, SEO has gotten harder, that it's going to be more like 12 months. Now, I will say, I didn't make any affiliate money until like very late in the game. You can make affiliate money from the second you're at 1,000 page views. I waited till I was at about 70,000 page views before I even added a proper affiliate link, and that's my bad. So don't do that. That's a mistake. And that'll make you money a lot faster if you skip the Nina pause of it all. There we go. So thank you so much for having me, Chris, and everybody here. If you want to follow me a bit more, you can find me and Theo. Theo's in a lot of my videos, so you'll see him everywhere at sheknowsseo.co, where I also have a weekly SEO newsletter. You can find me at Nina Clapperton on Twitter, at She Knows SEO on YouTube, and I have my free Facebook group, SEO for Travel Bloggers, but it's really SEO for every blogger. I'm very, very slow about changing names, so feel free to join, and that's where I answer questions as well, if y'all have any.
Thank you, Nina. Well, what value? Fantastic. Just a couple of questions from me. Actually, one main question, I think. You seem to write everything yourself by the looks of it, on topics that you know and understand. Is that accurate?
No,
or do you outsource? Do you have writers that you hire, systems in place in order to scale content at a faster pace than an individual could do on their own?
Oh, that's a great question. So I use AI, but I'll be honest, I am a control freak. So I tried to hire, in 2023, I copied a friend's strategy and hired 40 writers, and it was the worst mistake of my life, because number one...
40?
Yeah, it was a ridiculous experience.
Jeez.
I was like, I'll have to move people and train them and teach them how to write. And then about a month in, I took off to the woods for 6 months and had no Wi-Fi and abandoned my editor with them. It was a mistake. They were lovely. It was entirely on me. I am not a manager. That's not something I'm good at. So for me, I found I was getting more frustrated with the slowdown. I found even though I was giving them my personal experience, I was like, I can do better. And I love writing. Writing is my favorite thing. So at this point, I have a couple writers. I have about 4 that are kind of ad hoc when I need something. But even then, I give really extensive, we have a spreadsheet, and the spreadsheet goes crazy when I just fill in Nina's experience. It gets so long. But no, almost, I'd say 97% of things I write myself, and the 2 websites where I just wrote them have never been touched by an update. And I think that really is a big part of why, is that it is so clear that I know the stuff, I've experienced the stuff. So She Knows SEO, I think just over the last 3 weeks, I was moving house, to be fair. So I was procrastinating moving. I wrote 25 articles completely by hand, not with AI. I just wanted to. And they're all over 1,500 words. Some of them are a couple thousand.
You're quite prolific anyway. And then, so AI has got to have been a godsend for you. And I think it speaks volumes as well that you say those 2 sites haven't been hit. So if you're in a position where you can write, and you can utilize AI in a way that appears like you're not using AI to increase your output, and you're writing about things that you understand and that you know, and you can give real value and real experience, then we're just almost back to basics of, doing what Google asks to do, even though you know that they're lying, but helpful human written content, quality content, get some good links, and the game is still, open to all to play, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, and I would say if you are going to hire writers, the 4 that I kept, I really made sure that when they're writing for me, they're writing in their field of expertise and their experience, so they're able to bring that in. Even one of the writers who ultimately she moved on to a new career, so she left me, I would have kept her. Her posts rank really well because she also didn't have a blog, so we didn't have any issue of she wanted to save the content for herself. So she'd write about taking her mom to this coffee shop or something, or her experience on this cruise ship. And they did so much better, and they were so easy to edit because I wasn't having to be you clearly Googled this and got the hours wrong or something, because there's only so much they can do. So yeah, I would say for most of us, the reason we get into this, it's because we don't love our day job and because we want to have a job like this. I don't think it's as much passive income as people think. I think it's dividend income, where you put in the work up front, you write the posts, you go do the thing. And for most of us, stick in a niche you love. That way, I don't know, like think of all those grilling sites. Like there are guys who own 20 grills now and they are so happy because they're like, I get to buy all the grills and it's work. This is amazing. For me, that's travel or dog things. Like I made the dog website just so I could write off the sheer amount of things I buy him. Like I just bought him a $600 crate. It's insane. And it's like, okay, but it's a business expense. So like there's
genius.
there's a reason to do it in a sense of like this is something you care about, so you can put that forward and write the content that way. And if you're not a great writer, like that's okay. Hire someone who can rewrite it for you, but you take the time to do those tests. Voice note it to the person, like do a voice note of like, here's what happened, here's my experience, here's the pros and cons. Or even what I will do is I'll voice to text it and then put that into ChatGPT, because it's still you, it's your experience. I just like I have physical disabilities. It's hard to write by hand sometimes. And so when I can, like when I'm having a good month like this, I'm like, yeah, let's go. But the months I can't, I'm like, hey, ChatGPT, you're going to be my hands for me. So here's all the things I want to say. You say it for me, and then you edit it. Also, please always edit your AI content, because you legally don't own the output if you haven't edited it, because it's there's basically been a bunch of Supreme Court cases across the world where if it's a non-human entity that generated the content, you don't own the copyright. And how many of us had to file DMCAs for someone taking our content? So yeah, make sure you own the content, and so edit it, even just a little bit. It'll help.
Yeah. Okay, well, Nina, absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much, and we'll speak again soon, I'm sure.
For sure. Thank you so much, Chris.